Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there and welcome back to You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com. Today, I have a special guest. His name is Jonathan Chase. Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
Hi, Cesar. How are you?
Good. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for being here on the show, and can't wait to hear more about your story and you know, you bringing us a lot of value and dropping some information, some good information.
I always wonder about the value, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, though, definitely. So before we get started, let me just kind of introduce you and give our listeners and viewers a little bit of your background. So with that said, Jonathan has broadcast and presented stages, shows, talks on podcasts to over 3 million people. Despite the crippling hereditary muscular dystrophy, open heart surgery, and being a full-time chairman, he's had a 4-decade fascinating success journey that has taken him from the coal mining clubs of his Midlands home to the stages of the West in London and Las Vegas. He's appeared in front of royalty, celebrities, and a couple of magistrates. He's been called the Burden's leading hypnosis and the Gordon Ramsays of mind coaching. He's put tens of thousands to sleep and fed them onions, making them think they were fruit. That's awesome. I love that. So definitely a very astonishing career and a lot of great things you've done over the last couple of years. But I want to take it way back to maybe before that, and maybe give us a little bit of give us a little bit of your, you know, your background, you know, where are you from, where were you born, and, you know, some of your childhood, you know, memories.
Okay. I'm a coal miner's son from the industrial Midlands. I come from a place very close to what we call the Black Country, and it was called the Black Country because it was coal mines, iron mines, and it was where the Industrial Revolution started. The world that we live in now started there, the industrial world and everything. So, heredity back in those days were hard-working, hard-playing folk. You know, I believe in America they call them rednecks.
Yeah.
You know. Hard-working men. They were organised. They used to go on strike regularly just to have a few days off when they got tired. There was never any money, but there was always money for booze and bingo. You know, they could always find money for beer and bingo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a childhood that most modern children would look at and say it was hard and tough, and you know. I had 3 elder brothers, so I was brother bullied my whole life, you know, until I got bigger than them, and then that stopped.
Yeah,
surprisingly. You know, it was a typical working class childhood. There's an American speaker, I can't remember his name just now, but I remember a line that he said. He said, we weren't dirt poor, but we sure as hell were dusty. And, you know, I mean, we were like that, you know. Okay. I can't remember never having enough to eat. I can't remember never having like what you wanted for Christmas, although it was the cheaper version.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't it wasn't the best model car. It was a model car. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But then a strange thing happened to me when I was 10 years of age, because my mum was musical mad. And she used to, we had a piano in our house, believe it or not. You know, it was an old piano that my dad got given by the pub because they just wanted it out. So he wheeled it round the street with me and my three brothers, and we pushed it round as a present for my mum, you know, and she was over the moon because she could play a bit. But she took me to the London Palladium, and we're sitting in the stalls. The tickets were enormously expensive. And she took me and my brother to the London Palladium, and I was 10 years of age, and I was watching a guy called Tommy Steele, who was in what would the Americans be able to find? Half a Sixpence. He was in Half a Sixpence with Barbara Streisand years and years ago.
Yeah.
And I was looking at what was going on stage, and 3,000 people clapping and cheering and laughing, and I thought, I so want this, you know?
Yeah.
And I was 10, and it actually took me into my early 30s before I actually got on stage, because life happened, you know?
Yeah.
I had lots of operations when I was a kid, because I was diagnosed as having bone deformities when actually I've got a neuromuscular thing. So all the operations I had were terribly wrong. They shouldn't have been done. They caused more problems than not. So, and I was always the clumsy kid. I was the kid that was picked last for the football, for the soccer team. I've got to say soccer because you're American. And you think football is like rugby with armour.
Right. Yeah.
But I was always picked last. And then what I found was I actually won a competition in a national comic. And I won a case ball. It was a leather soccer ball, a leather football. And I was the only one in the school with a leather one. Everybody else's was plastic. So everybody wanted to play with my ball.
Got it.
And that meant I got to pick the team.
Yeah.
And I liked that. So I thought, right, leader, I like this game, because then I found that it was much easier to get people to do the stuff I couldn't do than it was for me to try and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds, you know, so I learned to manipulate at an early age.
Yeah. And let me ask you, as growing up, was there any, when did you really get, I guess, more of that muscular dystrophy? When did that come into play more into your life?
The muscular dystrophy I've got, the type of muscular dystrophy I've got, it's not actually a muscular dystrophy, but it's been swallowed up by that now. You know,
got it.
It's a bit like any odd psychotherapy comes under the banner of hypnosis or NLP.
Yeah.
You know, even though they're not actually those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, my glasses have just dropped on the floor now. I don't care. But the type I've got is called Charcot-Marie-Tooth syndrome, and it gets worse as you get older.
Got it.
So I was a clumsy kid, but I didn't really start really suffering from it until I was about 16, 17. Okay. And then I was working in a factory, and I kept falling over, and, you know, the factory owners thought it was not very safe for me to do that, because we made heating elements for boilers, and there was lots of sharp metal things about, and if I fell on one of them, you know, they've got compensation to find. So they suggested I leave. Yeah. So I had some operations done. I was in hospital pretty much the whole year, from when I was 18 to when I was 19, physio, operating. Oh, God, it makes it sound so bad, you know. And I thought it was great having all that time off and being in bed most of the time, reading, you know.
Right.
But, yeah, it got worse, but I was still on my feet. I was still walking about. I went to a college especially for people with disabilities, for handicapped people, you know, not mentally handicapped, although there was one or two people there that, you know, maybe,
yeah.
But me included. But yeah, so it was a physical thing. While I was at college, I met my first wife and moved up to Scotland, where she came from, and which was like going across the Atlantic, you know. I mean, it was like a different country altogether, with different ways of doing things, different ideas. People think that Scotland and England are the same. They're not.
They're not.
Absolutely. It's almost the difference between America and Mexico, you know.
Yeah. American or Canadians possibly too, yeah.
Yeah. Totally different. But so I spent some time in Scotland, and I got involved in nursing. I was involved in nursing for 5 years. I worked on a spinal injuries unit, helping people learn to live in wheelchairs. So that turned out to be useful. You know?
So you got into that because you were also trying to help yourself, or was it?
No, I got into that because I needed money to live.
Okay, so it wasn't because I know
it was a job.
Got you. Okay, yeah, because I know sometimes some other people tend to do certain things to help themselves, originally for themselves, and then it becomes like something, you know, different. In your case, you were looking for a job.
Yeah.
So
and I ran a local theatre company, you know, part-time theatre company, because I was always into showbiz, and then when they threw me out, I went back home to the Midlands, and I mean, we're talking about places where bands like where people like Ozzy Osbourne came from, you know, because he was born just up the road from where I was, you know, and there was a lot of really great people around at the time, and they were all in bands. So I became a roadie because I became what I call a drum tech. The drummer used to say, "Take them drums and put them on the van." You know, I knew nothing about them technically. I was just a dog's body, and I twiddled knobs on a soundboard and that sort of thing. And I ended up finding out about hypnosis, and I can't sing, can't dance, can't tell jokes. So it was magic or hypnosis, and I found out the hypnotists at the time earned a lot more money.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, it was easier for a hypnotist in those days to find work because there was only a dozen hypnotists in the whole UK working full-time professionally. So the competition was quite low. So I got involved in that, and then that became a career, you know.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you about that. Like, where did you find that passion to get into that, you know, the hypnosis part of your career?
I didn't. I'm an entertainer that used hypnosis as my instrument.
Got it.
Yeah. There was never, I want to be a hypnotist to help people and save the world. No, I wanted to be a hypnotist to earn more money than my best friend who was a magician.
Okay, yeah.
So I could buy a better car than his.
Yeah.
So I could buy a better house than his.
Right.
Know?
Yeah.
Because he'd always beat me at football and chess and things like that. So this was something I could, you know.
Yeah.
And people say to me, yeah, but you help people, you do personal development and that sort of thing. You must have a lot of passion. But passion has never been my one driver has been income. And I don't know why people don't get passionate about income, because you can take income to the bank. Yeah. You can't take passion to the bank. And although it's lovely and altruistic to say, oh, I am driven to help people, yes, I like and enjoy helping people. Yes, I like and enjoy advising people. Yes, I like and enjoy. But I'm very much in the group of people like, say, Marshall Silver, where I realise that if I want people to be successful. Now, in my book, success is when you help somebody else to find fulfillment, inspiration, satisfaction, and happiness. Fish. Yeah. And
I like that.
It's the old Chinese thing. You know, give a man a fish, he eats today. Teach a man to fish, he eats for the rest of his life. But buy the fish shop, and you can give fish to the whole world.
Yeah.
You know? Now, I can get passionate about people fulfilling their potential, but I also realise that not everybody's potential is superstar, millionaire, you know, wonderful person. Some people's potential is just being a really, really good dad, or a really, really good mom, or a really, really good hairdresser, or a really, really good coal miner, you know? And I mean, my dad, I didn't particularly admire him or anything. And he, you know, after a few drinks, he could get a bit narky, and he could throw things up wall and shout a lot at my mum. But, you know, he, like most people in our place, then there was a code, you know, you could shout at your wife, but you never hit her, you know. You never belted. You slippered your kids if they did something wrong. You gave them a smack, but he didn't beat us or anything, you know. Right. I mean, yeah, I've had my backside slammed a few times, you know, but to be honest, between you and I damn well deserved it. But, you know, but like, and he worked in the same job for 40 years. And this is something that a lot of people slam. He worked in the same job for 40 years. He loved being a coal miner.
Yeah.
He loved it. He liked his work. He loved his football on a Sunday, going out with the football team, and he was first aid man for the football team. And, you know, he loved going and playing dominoes. He loved having a few pints. He loved watching the television. And I don't remember him particularly joyous in any way, but I don't remember him unhappy or depressed, or I'm going to kill myself. The only time I ever saw my dad die was when our dog got run over by a bus outside the house, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, it like didn't happen because he was never. And people say, oh, you know, if you're not fulfilling your potential, but your potential may not be to be the world's number one huge, great big thing.
Right.
And it's finding your potential is important. Yeah. So, so part of my message to the world is you can realize your potential once you find out what that is.
Right.
Once you decide what that is. And there's nothing wrong in deciding to say, you know, I could be quite happy on 50, 60, 70 grand a year. You know, that would give me a lifestyle that would be sustainable, happy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying I want to be a multi-millionaire and have 3 houses and Ferraris, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But there's also nothing wrong with saying I want to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And you know, which means I'm never going to have any money.
Right.
Been there and done that.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And you know what? I think you're right. I mean, it comes down to the passion, or success is defined by you, right? The success that you perceive is defined by you. It's not necessarily a monetary aspect. Is whatever it is to you as a person. And you're right.
It's how you feel.
Yeah, exactly. It's how you feel. So if you feel being good, like a nurse or a teacher, and you know what comes with that, but yet that's what you want to be able to do, then so be it. And I also like what you mentioned is like, just because you're saying that you were chasing that money, that was your motivation, that was your drive, that's not a bad thing either, you know, because you know that creates and you know what is funny, because I've been with Marshall a couple of times and he mentioned the same thing you just mentioned. You know, if you want to do good for the humankind, well, you need money to be able to do that. So go out and chase the money, and then if you want to be and have this charity or do a lot of great things for humankind, you have to have the means to be able to do it. There's certain people that they focus so much on doing those things, yet they don't have the income and they're suffering. They're putting themselves in that situation. So why not help yourself, and then you can help others, right? And that's kind of what, one of the things that you were kind of talking about too, is that you can do all those things, except you got to be able to know how to go about doing that, right?
In the 1990s, they're not so big now, but we had what we called working men's clubs. They were social clubs, and every large factory, every large manufacturer, every village, small town, every coal mine had either a sports and social club or a working men's club, and they would be the booze would be cheap because they were non-profit organisations. They weren't there to make profit. They would all have entertainment at the weekend. They would have a stage, and in the late 80s and the early 1990s, big stars still did the club circuit, because there would be some of the big clubs, you could get 1,500, 2,000 people in a club, and they were all sitting there in rows of table with their pint in front of them, their pint of beer in front of them, and the women had just finished a couple of houses of bingo for large sums of money in those days, And I won a national CIU Command Performance Award for fundraising. And people used to say to me, how can you do so many fundraising shows if you're doing all these free shows?
Yeah.
And they were never free. I always charged expenses. I never actually gave them my money. I'm not that bad. But I raised, in 1 year, I raised over £100,000. Yeah, which in the early 90s was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And people said, how can you afford to do that? I said, because I charge 5 times what you do when I'm working for money. Yeah. So the people who could afford to pay paid for the people who couldn't.
Yeah, I love that. Wow.
So that was a way of giving it back, and it still is a way of giving it back. I know that Marshall does. He offers a free talk. Yeah. Where he'll go in and do a free talk to people, because he knows he's going to sell a couple of $100,000 worth of stuff at the back of the room.
Right. Yeah.
So you're still thinking, but how does it come back? Yeah. And I think that the philosophy is great and right, but the world currently works around money. We don't know what that's going to be in a few months' time. I don't know when this podcast is going to go out. Yeah. I don't know when in the future people are listening to it, but as you and I are speaking, COVID-19 is changing the face of the world.
Right.
As well as killing people and changing the way we think about illness and stuff like that. It's changing the economy of the world, which was going to happen anyway.
Right.
I don't think COVID is the cause of it. I think COVID is the opportunity for it to happen.
Right. Yeah, and it's also the I think it's also kind of like an opportunity of a change, and whatever that change might be, because I think it was something we're expecting, and now we have to adjust it or look at how we're going to be able to take that moving forward, right? So
yeah, I love it. I love the conspiracy theory. I love all the conspiracy theories that come up. Some of them are mental. Some of them, It's we've been evil, and it's God showing us.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think he'd be killing a few more people if that were the case.
Right. Yeah.
I think a few cities would be raised into pillars of salt and that sort of thing.
Right.
Which hasn't happened yet.
Right.
But yeah, the economy's in a mess anyway, and I think from an entrepreneurial point of view, I never call myself an entrepreneur because I don't own businesses and I don't run businesses. I'm a freelancer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And being a freelance means flexibility. So if somebody says to me, well, I'd like to pay you this way, I can have a look at it now, you know, and I've started to accept Bitcoins as payments, you know,
okay.
because I think that's going to be a really valid currency in the future, possibly even more than gold, because the gold standard is getting weaker and weaker all the time, you know. But so who knows? Who knows what's going to happen next week? Isn't it exciting?
It is because you just never know. I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, I embrace it and just kind of look at what is coming, right? And see the positive of that. At least that's how I see it. And
the hypnotist is coming, my friend.
Well, and so I was gonna say that, you know, and you talked about that, and I wanna get your point of view, because you're a hypnotist and you know this more than maybe the normal common people. So you talked about the mental aspect of a lot of the things that are happening is all mental, and hypnotist is part of that too, right? And so, like, how do you see? Obviously, you've been a well-pronounced hypnotist. How do you see things differently than the other people, and how powerful is that in you know, the hypnotist and the programming that is going on in your mind, you know, from that aspect?
I don't know how I see it differently from anybody else, because I don't know how you see it.
Got it.
Yeah?
Okay. Yep.
How I see it, purely as my point of view on hypnosis isn't the same as everybody else's. I don't think that if you tell yourself you can't do something, that you are hypnotizing yourself, because I've hypnotized tens of thousands of people on stage, and I know that hypnosis is a mindset that you do not get yourself. You cannot get it yourself. You might get the same effect, but, you know, a donut in your mouth starts spit to come and everything, but, you know, so does water. They are not the same thing. They produce the same effect, but they aren't the same thing. And I don't think that, you know, being told to stay in your home is a hypnosis, if you agree to do it. But I do think that there is an awful lot. Hypnosis is mind manipulation, and I do think there's an awful lot of manipulation going around. And there's some good, you know, there's good or bad. Do you know what Shakespeare said? He said, nothing is good nor bad, except thinking makes it so. So, you know, what that means is that, you know, there's no good or evil, just your opinion of what's just happened. So I don't think it's hypnosis that we're going through, but the effect is the same. In the manipulation is changing the programming of how people react to things, and how people will react to things in the future. But the world was changing anyway. I'm 65 years of age. You would not believe the changes I've seen in my very short lifetime.
Wow, yeah.
You know, and 65 years is nothing in human terms. You know,
right.
We've been around for what is it, 70,000 years? You know, that's a long time. You can't even begin to imagine. And I think there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's hypnosis." It may be manipulation, but it's not being done very well. I wish one or two hypnotists were in charge, because we could do it a lot better.
Right? Yeah.
But it is interesting. It's fascinating to watch people. I don't know whether you would say it was capitulation or whether it was cooperation. But, you know, who would have thought that possibly, as a guess, 70% of the population of the world are doing what they're being told to do by the people that they put into positions of power to tell them what to do. That's never happened before, you know. I mean, in Great Britain, normally if the government says do something, everybody goes and ignores it.
Right.
You know. But they're not doing that now. There are people that are ignoring it, you know, but the vast majority
worldwide are changing, are following that.
Yeah, Yeah. No, I don't think it's a change because I think we've always done that. We've just never done it so visibly before.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah. Now that I think about it, you're right. I mean, because we do. At the end of the day, it maybe seems more clear now because of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Where before it wasn't as vivid, or you couldn't see it as much, right? Um, Now, so let me ask you, in terms of hypnosis, like obviously that can be utilized for both good or evil, in terms of what,
Absolutely.
you know, and so I know a lot of people when they think of hypnosis or NLP, it's like, oh no, I don't want to talk to that person, or I don't want to, I don't know what they can do to my mind. Like I don't want them to enter into my mind. And I'm very new at this, and in the stages, I've done some NLP practices. I've obviously been around with Marshall a lot, and I started doing a little bit of stage hypnotist, and I love that because I like that the aspect of how powerful that might be. Yet a lot of people are so afraid of it. So what would be your advice in terms of embrace it or run away from that?
I'll be afraid. Be very afraid.
Okay. Yeah, right. Like,
fear is just an emotion.
Yeah, but, right.
No, fear. Do you know what FEAR stands for?
Well,
fairly easily affected reaction.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard that one. I like that one.
No, that's mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're thinking I was going to say
well,
everything and
everything.
Yeah.
All the other ones, yeah.
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 Put everything and run. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say that. It's a fairly easily affected reaction. That's what fear is. Yeah. If anybody's listening and they're worried about, I'm scared about this, I'm scared about that, I'll tell you the best thing you can do is think, I'm excited about this. My heart's beating faster because I'm excited. I'm a little bit sweaty because I'm excited. This is going to be like a roller coaster ride. This is going to be great. This is going to be fabulous. And as soon as you start thinking and using the neurology that's affected to the word excitement, then scared changes. And your chemistry changes, and your neurology changes, and your limbic system and your amygdala starts to produce serotonin, which drops down your dopamine, which means that you don't need so many endorphins, which means that the whole chemistry of your brain changes. And when the chemistry of your brain changes, Harvard actually did do a study on this. Now, I know that everybody says, oh, Harvard did a study, and then you do the research and you find out that they didn't do it. Harvard did a study on it, but the one I'm going to quote was done actually in Newcastle University in Great Britain. And they did it with 260 students, which is not a lot of people. Yeah. But half the students were told to think of their exam nerves as excitement, and half were just left. Yeah. The half that were told to think of it as excitement performed 37% better.
Wow.
Than the control group. Yeah. Now, all that means is in 100 people, 3.5 people perform better.
Yeah.
But if you take that into the hundreds of thousands of people that do university degrees at the end of at the beginning of every year in March when they do the finals, if you take that to the billions of people that are going to be doing it over the next 2 or 3 decades, that's an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like somebody said to me, how do you get so much passion and excitement when you walk out on stage? I said, I'm shitting myself.
Of excitement.
With excitement.
Yeah.
My heart's going, and I really get myself. I actually have to get myself into that state now, because my worst shows and my worst talks and my worst classes are the ones where I'm just going, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
And I know that people like Marshall do that. You've only got to watch the guy, you know. I mean, somebody's standing behind him with a handle, turning him up, you know, and getting him going. We met in Vegas a few years ago and got on tremendously well. But yeah, we've got to change what's happening now in people's heads, because people are getting depressed and people are getting anxious and people are saying, oh, this is going to be terrible, it's going to be awful, it's going to, you know. And what you should be doing is saying, well, this is interesting, this is exciting. I don't know what's going to happen next. Here's just something that I want to share with you, Cesar, that I don't share with other people. So come closer. Nobody knows what's going to happen next, ever.
Right. Yeah.
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 We're playing a game, mate. We're playing a game. We don't know what cards. We're playing Hold'em, and we know what cards we've got, but we do not know what cards are going to go onto the river. We don't know what cards are going to go face up on the table. We've got no idea.
Right.
And we can only react to what happens there by knowing the cards we've got. We have a program online called How to Make Friends with Yourself and Influence People, rather than How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because if you don't start with yourself, forget it.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna happen. You know, you can be really, really magnificent at using memory patterns, and you can do spatial anchoring, and you can do all the tricks that hypnotists and NLPers do, and you can do that extremely well. But if you're not friends with yourself, you will never succeed. You will never get anywhere near the point that you need to be.
Right.
Yeah. Because if you don't know yourself, and you don't know what your passion is, you don't know what your potential is, you don't know what your natural talents are, because your natural talents you were born with. There's a thing in psychology called trait theory, where there are 5 traits that we are born with. We've changed that slightly to MindStyle. We've got a thing called mindstyleapp.com online. It's completely free. Go along, you answer 10 questions in 3 minutes, but they're all subconscious questions. They've got nothing to do with decisions about work or career or money or anything like that. They may seem trivial questions, but it took us 10 years to develop this, to turn a psychometric assessment into subconscious tool. And the beauty of it is, it will not only show you where your main mind styles are, but it will show you where your main stresses are. So then you can either avoid them, or once you know what they are, you can say, yes, okay, I know that's going to stress me. And prepared is better than unprepared. Yeah? So, and that's the thing. These are things that I have discovered and found out because I play with people's minds for a career, for paying my mortgages.
Yeah.
Several mortgages. Yeah. For paying my mortgages, for, you know, for dragging my 2 kids up, for, you know, putting food on the table.
Right.
For, you know, I mean, I'm sitting in a wheelchair here that's ultra comfortable because it's made for me.
Right.
You know, that cost a few grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Custom made for sure. Yeah.
Well, not custom made, but well, yeah, all good wheelchairs are custom made. You know, because I've got quite a broad nether region. Yeah. The chair needs to be a little bit wider than average. You know, so that costs money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love what Marshall Silver says. He says, money can solve most problems. And I love the people who say to me, oh, yeah, but money can't give you your legs back. Yes, it can, because it gave me a wheelchair, for God's sake.
Yeah, and you're right, exactly. And it goes back to what you just said earlier, too, and you just reinforce that. It's changing that frame and changing the way you see things. Instead of because it becomes a choice, right? It becomes a choice. I can sit here, you or anybody can sit here and say, I'm miserable because of the situation that I have or the circumstances, or I'm going to change that. And I'm grateful. Like you said, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm excited to see what's going to happen tomorrow. Or, damn it, what's going to happen tomorrow? I lost my job. I don't have this. I don't have, again, change that frame and start thinking about it to start getting into that, what I consider to be more of that, get all that crap, negative thinking out of your head and start thinking about the positive stuff. And even if your head is going to a different direction, start shifting it to start thinking and changing that, right?
Can I just say?
Yeah, definitely.
I hate the positive negative thing.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, because going back to what Shakespeare said, nothing is good nor bad except thinking makes it so. Now,
True.
the problem with positive and negative is, besides the fact that in energy terms it's actually wrong, there is no such thing as negative. Because an electrical circuit is either working or it's not.
Got it. Yep.
So there's positive and neutral, not positive and negative.
Ah, got it. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the positive negative comes from the human brain thinking, I like that, I don't like that. Yeah. Now, I always think, but having had a handicap and having had a disability I've been in a wheelchair since my heart attack and everything, because that worsened the condition that I was in. And when I was 48, I'm 65 now. When I was 48, my heart stopped. Yeah. And I had to have my chest opened up and I had to have a quadruple heart bypass. And I woke up with all tubes coming out of me in an ICU, and thought, heck, that was a good night, But, sorry if you got to beep that.
No.
But, it's very much a case of, I think, that instead of thinking I've got to be positive here, think I've got to be productive here. Because, it's very difficult to be positive if you're in a bad mood, but you can still be productive in a bad mood.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You can be down, you can be depressed, but you say, right, okay, I'm going to make that phone call. I'm going to visit that website. I'm going to fill that form in. Yeah. I'm going to ring my bank manager up and laugh at his latest letter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But you can be productive rather than, there was a great Australian comedian. She was lovely. She had cerebral palsy and she'd been in a wheelchair her whole life. And there's a TEDx talk that everybody ought to listen to, and it says, I am not your inspiration, thank you very much. Yeah. And her name was Stella Young. And what Stella said was great about positive thinking, because she said the positive thinking was like disability pornography, where you objectify a group of people for the satisfaction of other people, going, oh, aren't they wonderful? Go and stuff yourself, No, we're not. We're just as crazy, we're just as mental, we're just as obnoxious, and we're just as anxious, and we're just as lovely as you are. Yeah. We're just people, we just happen to have a difference, Yeah. I tell people now I'm diverse.
Diverse, okay.
Yeah. I haven't got disability, I've got diversity. But
I like it. Yeah.
But what she said was, and it really stuck with me, to quote it, what she said was, you can smile all day at a set of stairs, positive thinking, but it won't turn into a ramp. Productive thinking. Yeah. And what you need is productive thinking first, and then you can be positive about the result. Right. Because you can only think positively or negatively about the result of something. You can't think about it in those terms when you start, because, I'm looking just over your head there, and I can see your poster and it says, you can overcome anything.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if I throw you off the top of a 400-foot cliff into the rocks below, you can overcome being squished like a muscle at the bottom.
Yeah, right. That would be a little bit challenge unless I have a parachute or something.
That should say you can overcome almost anything.
Almost anything, yeah. Unless you have a parachute without, getting ready for it. Yeah. No, definitely.
Just joking, my friend. Just joking.
No, I know you are.
I do understand what you mean by that.
No, I know. No, you know what? I love it. I actually like this. I like how you put it. And I didn't think of that. The productivity is definitely where, now that I see it and I see it from that perspective, and I hope that the people that are listening to this and watching this, it makes sense, right? Because you're right.
Thinking beats positive thinking every single time.
You're right, because I even been in some cases where I might be having a down moment or something like that, and said, well, I gotta make this stuff happen. I gotta start calling or doing this, and then I get on that productive mode, even if I'm in a down mode, and then that starts changing the physiology. Actually, for me, that's what happened. I was there was a couple of times, couple of weeks back where I was like not feeling it. I wasn't, all of that excited about certain stuff, and I'm like, I gotta get this done. Yet when I started doing that, it just changed my physiology to where it then put me to the positive side.
Yes.
Put it that way. So
then you started to feel good, yeah?
Yeah.
And that's when you started to go into the positive.
Yeah.
The positive is a result, not a cause.
Yeah.
Negative is a result, not a cause. Yeah? There's productive or unproductive. It's like the comfort zone. I've written several articles on my blog about comfort zone because I hate the people say, "Oh, I'm stuck in my comfort zone, so I've got to get scared and to achieve anything," which is over here in the United Kingdom we say bollocks. Yeah, that's my favourite swear word. I don't know if you understand what the word bollocks means.
I don't know.
Gonads, testicles. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, rubbish, basically.
Rubbish, yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, you look at it. If I said, go and ask Marshall Silver, right? 30 years on stage and he goes out in front of hundreds of people. He does not feel uncomfortable in that situation. He loves it. Mm-hmm. He loves being there. He is comfortable in that situation. Tony Robbins has been saying the same things and doing the same things for 35 years. He has never changed. Why? Because he's comfortable doing it. When I did private clients, in show business, when we haven't got any work, we say we're resting. So when I was resting, I did some therapy on the side. That's how I got into that sort of thing. And although I've never been a therapist, I would do remedial hypnosis.
Yeah.
But people would come to me and they say, "Can you help me with this? And can you help me with that?" I say, yeah. But in all that time, hundreds and hundreds, thousands probably of people, I never had anybody come up to me and say, John, I feel really, really comfortable with my life. I'm comfortable with my wealth. I'm comfortable with my health. I'm comfortable at home. I am so depressed. Please help me.
Yeah.
You move from your discomfort zone into your comfort zone, not the other way around. And instead of thinking, well, I've got to be scared, I've got to be uncomfortable, you've got to be excited. And it's when you hit excitement, not passion, it's when you hit excitement, when your heart starts to beat and you start to think, right, okay, I'm going for this. When your heart starts to beat, and it's almost like having a panic attack. I remember the first theatre show I ever sold out, and it was a 2,500-seater at the Theatre Royal in Hanley in Stoke-on-Trent. And sadly, it's no longer there. It's a supermarket now. But it was a terrible day. It was raining. We arrived at the stage door and we couldn't find any way to park, so we had to park 2 blocks away, and then we had to walk with all the gear and all the props and everything down to the stage door in the pouring rain. We got in there. My lady assistant got ill and she couldn't do the show, so I was going to do it on my own. then Gary, the theatre manager, come into the dressing room. He said, "Can we start 15 minutes late?" I said, "Why, is there nobody here?" He said, no, it's not that. He said, "But the queue's all the way up the door." He said, "And we can't get them in fast enough."
Wow. Yeah.
I said, "Oh, right, yeah." You know, I mean, I was just 200 people.
Yeah.
And I sat for a minute and I thought, right, either I do this scared or I do it excited. And I did it excited, and I rode the wave, and I don't remember. I've got a video of it somewhere, you know, but the tape's probably gone now, you know, because this was the early 90s. This is like 30 years ago, you know. But that's when I realised that it's the way you think, it's what you think about what's happening now that changes what you're going to get in the future. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, when 2,500 people stand up and clap, you can feel the wind.
Yeah.
You can't really, but it feels that
way. Right.
Yeah.
Is that vibration and energy too?
Yeah. And I mean, I headlined at the Starlight Club in the West End, the West End of London. That's like Broadway. You know, I've appeared on stage in Vegas, which in show business terms is the ultimate thing to do. Yeah. You know, that's why Marshall's so lucky being there for so long.
Yeah.
But pardon me. Yeah. All of that has been done with practical thinking, not positive thinking. And I'll tell you one thing that show business teaches you, and everybody in show business will tell you this, there is always a time where you turn up at the gig and, I don't know, maybe you've got flu, maybe you had an argument with the missus before you came out, you know, maybe the kids are in trouble at school for doing something naughty, maybe your cat died. Maybe you got stuck in traffic and you only just arrived just before you go on and you've got to rush. And maybe a million other things went wrong that day. But the show must go on. And you turned up and you did it even though you were feeling lousy.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah. And you choose how to do it. You do it
excited because, yeah. Because that's productive thinking, not positive thinking. Yeah, and it's a bit like in your title, you know, it's overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
Right? Just not accepting it and saying, right, okay, when this finishes, I'm going to sit there, I'm going to feel really sorry for myself, and I'm going to have a shout, and I'm going to, and I'm going to stop in a cafe on the way home and eat all the wrong things for 3 hours and like not talk to the wife when I get home, and I'm going to do all the stuff that I want to do to make me feel better. But for this next hour or 2 hours, I mean, when I was doing theatre shows, I did 2.5 hours on my own solid, you know. It's a long time on stage to keep an audience interested. But and that's productive thinking, not positive thinking.
Right. Yeah. So I have a couple more questions for you before I let you go. And do you
have to be quick? We've gone way over your half an hour, Bob.
I know I did, huh? Do you work with anybody on a one-on-one basis now, or you just do show business now?
But basically, now that I'm the age I am, I'm quite comfortable working more on a one-to-one basis. We do run an online mastermind thing where we've got 10 members that join. It's a little bit like an inner circle.
Yeah,
you know.
Gotcha. Yep.
And these are people who mostly entrepreneurs, executives, people like that, and they want fine tuning and honing about projects that they've coming up. Maybe Maybe they've got to network, maybe they've got to negotiate, maybe they've got to sell, maybe they've got to buy, I don't understand. Everybody teaches you to sell, nobody teaches you to buy, and sometimes that's better. Maybe they've got to speak, maybe they've got to teach, maybe they've got to lead in some way. So we work with people that have got to do those things at that level, to help them not get success. Most of the people I work with are successful anyway, but the trick isn't just getting successful, it's sustaining that success.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because success comes with stresses that nobody else gets. I mean, being president or prime minister or, and being right up there on the top of that particular tree, the political tree, that comes with stresses. Yes, okay, they're exactly the same neurologically as the stresses you and I figure, but they have different causes and they have different, and it's a lot harder. It's what I call top of the tree tension. Because when you think about it, everybody says, oh, you've got to climb up and get to the top of the tree. The thing is, at the bottom of the tree, you've got nice thick roots and land and ground, and you're firm and you're solid. And then as you're climbing up the tree, you get nice thick branches where there's lots of twigs and other thick branches going off. But when you get to the top of the tree, you've got a few little twigs and some leaves, and they fall off every year. Yeah. And it's a hard balancing game up there.
Yeah.
And if you fall, it's a long way down. Yeah. And although those thick branches might break your fall, they don't actually stop you hitting the ground.
Yeah.
What happened to me, I did my show in Vegas, and afterwards, and I'd met Marshall and everything. I was at Hypnothoughts conference. And when I got back home, I just wanted to curl up and die and stop and not do anything. And for 5 years, I had a real game with, Marshall rang me up actually and wanted to do something together. And I basically told him no, and I didn't want to do anything. And that was because I was going through what we call top of the tree burnout. I got to the top of my tree, and it completely did my head in. I completely burnt out. This is only 6 years ago. Yeah. And it's only the last year that I've really been coming back. Because what I've been doing for 6 years is suffering with burnout. And I didn't even know that's what it was until somebody who's not a psychologist or anything like that, turned around to me and said, you're just like I was when I burnt out. And I think sometimes we know too much, because sometimes we know so much about ourselves and everybody else, we forget to look at ourselves, and it's like going right back to the start when I said our program, How to Make Friends with Yourself and Influence People. The first thing we get you to do is to find out what your subconscious mind wants, and, you might not be able to give in completely to that, because your subconscious mind might want to live on Mars, yeah? And you might not be able to grant that, but you might be able to say, well, let's work together on how we can do that, and people say that's mad because your subconscious mind's you and you're your subconscious mind. But and I know that little devil inside you that says, I want that sweetie. And you go, no, I want that. Yeah, we do have two response systems. We do have two reasoning systems. The subconscious mind isn't an idiot savant. It doesn't just do what it was told.
Right.
Marshall and I would argue about this. It isn't a programmable computer, but you can talk to it. You can find out what it wants. You can lead it. You can move it around. Yeah? So yeah, it's in my way of doing things. Yeah, productivity beats positivity every single time. Yeah. You have to make friends with yourself before you can influence people. and you have to give people fish. You have to find fulfillment, inspiration, satisfaction, and happiness to give people, because that's what people most desire. And when you fulfill people's desires, it's way better than solving their problems, because you can't solve all the problems, because all the problems are always going to be there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, definitely. If people wanted to maybe connect with you, or maybe look at how they can work with you, how can they find you?
JonathanChase.com, thehypnotist.co.uk, thehypnotist.uk, JonathanChase.co.uk. Our company is called Subskills Training. So we've got subskillstraining.com, but you find everything off the Jonathan Chase site, and then we've got podcasts and stuff like that,
Okay. Yeah, and I'll have all that information here. And so, Jonathan, believe it or not, you gave us a lot of great nuggets. I myself learned like a couple of different things here that I didn't hear before, and I love your term and your acronym of FEAR. Definitely going to quote you on that. That's really good. I love
excitement.
Excitement. Yeah.
Excitement.
Yes. Yeah. True. That's it. Excitement. So definitely thank you
change
so much.
The word, you change everything.
Yeah. And words do matter, and that's true. Yes.
Yeah.
So now, definitely, Jonathan, thank you so much for dropping by and sharing a lot of information, and giving us all your excitement. So thank you for that.
It's okay. You're very, very welcome. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So
I love to hear myself talk.
Good. Well, you get the recording too. There you go.
So, great. Fabulous. I won't listen to it, but thank you.
Yeah, there you go. So for the rest of you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, for stopping by at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Please make sure you like, share, and also comment on this video. Till next time, I'll see you guys. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Jonathan.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you tuned in to this podcast. You can find me at Spreaker.com, where you can like and subscribe. And to learn more about myself and my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at Facebook under Cesar R. Espino. Once again, thanks for joining me. I am looking forward to having you at the next episode, and know that you truly can overcome anything.